Okay, my apologies. Unfortunately, my battery died on my phone. All I've done since then is the switch that turns on and off the rear windows. I've taken it off the board. It's just two solder joints. It's fairly straightforward to take off. You just desolder these two pins, lift that side up, and then you can pop the other two sides out, straighten them out. I'm going to have to clean that switch, I think, as well, because I have a feeling the contacts in this will probably be a little bit manky. While I was sitting having a cup of tea, I suddenly realised if both of these aren't working and aren't getting the ampage through to turn the window, lift the windows up and down, chances are this is the only thing that's connected to both of those. Both these switches can't necessarily or shouldn't necessarily be faulty in the same way, unless liquid has gone into both of them equally. So this switch is going to be a little bit harder to take apart than the other switches, just because of how complicated it is. It's got tiny little pins in it and a little spring probably. I'll take that apart in a minute. So this is like part 3 because my phone battery completely died. I have cleaned the board. I've filled in the two vias underneath this, and also put a tiny little bit of solder on there just to tin this side of the pins, because when we solder on the other side, I'd rather the pins went through and the solder melted on the other side, went all the way through and completely connected these two vias. Cleaned the board up as much as I can on this side. I haven't done this side yet, so I'll give this a quick clean. I use isopropanol alcohol, which I don't always use the expensive stuff. So what I actually use at the moment is brake cleaner. It is not 100% isopropanol. It's got hydrocarbons in. But basically, brake cleaner, a good quality brake cleaner. It's fast evaporating and it's designed to get grease off things. I just spray a bit in the cap or spray it on the board if I'm cleaning an entire board, and just use a Q-tip or cotton bud. These are standard cotton buds. I do have electronic cotton buds, but there's no point in using them when you're just cleaning a board. It's brake cleaner, just cleans all the flux off. I have, while I've been offline, charging my phone, which doesn't take long. I've got a super fast charger, so it only takes about an hour. But in that time I was watching YouTube, so it took a little bit longer. I have also cleaned the contacts. It's that quick. Nice propanol just evaporates, so leaves no real residue. Give it a quick wipe down with the other end. There'll be a little bit of flux left on there, look. So haven't quite got it all. I do have J cloths type things as well, yellow cloths, lint free cloths, all sorts of other stuff. But for a board like this, it doesn't really matter if you've got a little bit of residue left on there, as long as the solder pads are clean, which they will be in this one. So just use this one, give it another wipe down. You can see it's clean now. There's no real residue on there. So yes, while I was away, I also gave these a quick clean underneath, because you can see the contacts just under there. Focus in, stupid thing. So I gave those two contacts a quick clean, splashed some isopropanol underneath and slid it backwards and forwards. You can feel it's springy, so it does make a good contact, and I just did that with both these switches just to make sure they're clean. This one was damaged a little bit by the heat, but it's just the top plastic. The connections underneath are still fine. It still makes contact, so all it's doing is shorting out that side or shorting out that side, so it still works fine. Obviously this is a massive big earth ground plane, so it sucked the heat away quite a lot from there, so I needed to use a little bit of heat on this to desolder it properly. Right, I'm going to stick this back on here for now. I'm going to take the switch apart. Oh, I also tinned and soldered all these. Right, first things first. All my screwdrivers have fallen, so that one's a bit big. I dropped the entire box of screwdrivers when I was getting out of my car. So they are all over the place in the box. So excuse me while I try and find my flat blade. No. This is the most common one I use. You can tell by it being silver on the end. Little switches like this, you just sort of have to pop them off. These are the two switches that were for the electric windows. So you have to be careful with this that you don't damage it. Where's my other one? So hopefully on camera. So I'll just get a couple of them at once. I'll put it down there first. These contacts in here I reckon are probably going to be dirty. We'll see. It's a little bit of a pain in the backside getting them off because you normally have 4 of these clips. There's one there, one there, one there, one there. And they clip together easy enough. It's just getting them out in the first place. Let's try this side. Oh, there we go. So it's just getting the right little position to get one out, and then the switch will come apart. Now most switches have springs in. I don't know about these ones that will have a spring of some sort. So make sure you hold on to it while you take it apart. Zoom in a little bit. So I'll put that side there. You can see the 2 contacts there. They contact with that. That goes down that pin, which is your positive pin, so that's positive. When it switches down, and that flips onto both of those, which make it negative. Now, yep, I can see dirt under there already. I'll just zoom in, hopefully it'll focus. You can see the contacts are all black. They should be nice and shiny, and they're all focus. They're all dark and black, so they're going to need a clean, which is what I thought. I've just dropped one of the little plastic things out of there, which is gone where? Put the scooter across the floor. Yep, I'll have to find that. In 2 seconds. Apologies for that, I found it. So it's symmetrical, goes both ways by the looks of it. I'm just going to double check which way around it goes. Yes, it has to go that way. So just pop that back in. Tweezers. Oh yeah, that goes back in like that. Sorry, I didn't have that in. So these go in like that, just in case you drop them. And so they're not difficult to get apart. The plastic's fairly robust. Got a little bit of grease in there. We'll clean all of this up. Right, so I found that. Just going to get some, this is 800 grit. I use the Indisa wet and dry, or however you want to pronounce it. Indasa. Just cut a strip off. You can use 2000 grit, which I use for really smooth contacts. Just a little piece, about the size of your finger. And get your screwdriver, fold it over the end of your screwdriver. If you need a little bit smaller, I think I'll do for this contact under here. snip a little bit thinner off. Any screwdriver will do, that's flat blade, and you just give it a quick rub over and make sure they're all nice and shiny. And a nice propanol will do. If you use 2000 grit, you'll get a mirror finish. Sometimes that's not so good, sometimes you want it to have a little bit of a rough finish. So these contacts are actually okay anyway, but I'm just making them a little bit more shiny. So they actually end up more like a little mirror finish in this, but it's good enough. So those ones are done. These ones I can clean because they're on top, so we'll just give those a quick rub down. We don't want to rub it too hard because there'll be a silver coating on this, and really we want that silver coat to still stay there. And then these ones, I'll just put it in. Because these springs are attached like that, you don't want to start taking the springs off, you will in a world of pain. So just put them in, double-sided sandpaper, drag it through, and you'll see they instantly start cleaning up. And you clean both contacts at once. Obviously you can dip these in isopropanol. I've got an ultrasonic cleaner I can use, which I could have put the whole board in the ultrasonic cleaner. It would have slowly cleaned all of the surface off, but it could desolder or disconnect surface mount components. Doesn't normally, but it has in the past made springs pop out for me. So they're nearly clean. Now that one is. This has actually got a checker plate on there, so I don't want to take all that checker plate off. Again, on the other side, just give it a drag through. The top contact on this is a smooth one and it's a little bit more dirty, so I'm just going to do that one a bit more. This is the one from that side because I flipped the board over. So you can see this, I'm just cleaning the contacts a little bit. I don't want them absolutely pristine, smooth surfaces, because it's meant to have a little bit of rough surface on this. It stops arcing. So we'll just keep checking it. Once it's nearly clean, we will get another cotton bud. One of these. This is why I don't use expensive ones for the computers and for the circuit boards, because you use them that much and they're so expensive for the other ones, and they're just cotton buds, just they've got different glue on. So that's now a nice shiny contact, as is the top. Just cleaning all of that residue off from the sanding process. Trying not to lift it too much, because if you lift that, it's going to pop the spring out, so keep your finger on it. And I can already see that's a nice clean contact up there. There's a nice clean contact down there. There's a tiny little bit of dirt just in the grooves, so I'm just going to clean that a bit more thoroughly. There you go, that one's clean. Give it a quick dry with the other side. Nearly popped that one off. Same with this one. Give it a quick wipe down with isopropanol. Now there is a little bit of grease in here, which allows the plastic to move up and down. I don't want to remove that grease, have some grease. Where is it? It's not in here. I think it's in the boot of the car actually. We don't want grease on these contacts anyway, so I'll put a little bit of grease in the little plastic bits when we get to that part. So contact and contact, these are domed, so we need to pop them back together the same way they were. That's it, clipped in. Need to make sure all these pins are clean and straight. So what I'll do is I'll grab a hold of this. Circuit board doesn't really matter that much. Grab it with two jaws, just turn it towards me. Soldering iron I've changed for the curvy clip, which is this one. Just because it keeps a little bit more heat and it's actually shorter. I did that while I was away. So I'll put a little bit of solder on these. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to tin them a little bit. Just get a bit of fresh solder on there. This is lead solder, it's not lead free solder. Lead solder is not dangerous at all. The fumes are, but I'm in a fairly open space here, so not too bothered about that. Just use a bit of solder wick again, clean the legs up. I want these completely solder free. Obviously they'll have a little bit on there still from on the very surface, but I want them to have basically no solder on, so that they fit through the hole nice and smoothly. So we'll just wrap it around, suck all the solder off, and then we'll get to straightening them. My blackbirds come to see me at the window. Got a lot of wildlife in my garden because I've got lots of trees. And my workshop's downstairs, so at the moment. Right, so they're all nice and clean now. What I'll do, I think that was in camera, yeah. I'll use my flat headed cheap pliers that I found in the skip. This is where you got your pens from. If you know who you are, you know who you are. You know those pens that I supposedly gave you. So I straightened all the pins out. What I'm going to do, I'm going to repopulate this onto there. Check that they both click, which they should do. Yes and yes. I'll re-grease those from the top. So pop that out, turn it over. Yeah. We will bend these pins back down the same way that they were. That way it holds it in place. That one wasn't bent down, but I'm going to bend it down anyway. Quickly grab the board, and I'm going to solder this one on while I've got it here. So remember how I said I wanted to redo these vias? Bit of solder, you can see it disappear down the hole. It's very thin solder this, so it takes a little bit more than you'd expect. And there you go. We solder that one. Come on. The leg wasn't quite heating up there. I want to make sure there's plenty of solder in these vias, it pops out the other side. A bit of dirt on my soldering iron. Always make sure your soldering iron's clean, the flux if you can. Don't have a nice shiny smooth surface. And most people wouldn't bother changing these switches, they would just go out and buy a new switch, but to be honest with you, it's taking a bit of time, but apart from time, it's fairly straightforward. You just need a steady-ish hand. Since 2018, November 2018, my hands haven't quite been as steady as they used to be. You'll know why if you know me. A little solder ball there. I don't like how much is on that. Let's clean that off. And put a little bit of fresh on there. Just to make sure. Yeah, there we go. That's better. A bit more happy with that. I'll quickly touch up that via there. Via there. Just put a bit more solder on them. And that via there, which is the front passenger window, and that via there. There we go. I've already done those. Oh, you're off camera now. I've already done those two vias. Just going to quickly touch up these ones a little bit. Just put some lead solder on there because it doesn't rot as quickly as the lead-free stuff. And then those ones there as well. Just loading them up with a bit of lead solder instead of lead-free. Right, I've got that test point there to do. There's also a via. And those two tiny little vias just under there, I'm going to just top those up as well. So this is fluxed solder, so it's already got flux in it. And it's quite a nice flux actually, it doesn't really stick to the board too much. Right, I might as well top up that via there. There you go. And that one there. While I've got the soldering iron out, and that one there, and that one there. This means we've got a good solder connection between one side of the board and the other, even if the legs don't connect from one side to the other, which they should do. Right, all the other vias have been done. So what we'll do now, we'll keep that in frame. I'll take the other switch apart. That last switch, this one here, which is the on-off toggle switch, is going to be a nightmare. I know it is. So we'll pop it in the side like that. I think we actually popped it in the end, didn't we? Pop it in that side. This has actually got rust on it by the looks of it. I don't know if you can see there, but there's a bit of rust there. So I wonder if that was pop or water got into the switch. Oh, nearly popped out. Popped it. As I say, it's just awkward doing these, that's all. Once it pops, that's it, it's out. Just got to get both of them to pop at once on one side. So stick that in the gap. It's a little bit awkward to see. Pop another screwdriver in the side. Come on. So that's in the side. Pop this in the end. Doesn't matter if you drop it as long as you can find it again. Grab it with this. try this side. This is where I got it from last time. So pop it in there, try and release that clip, and try and release one of the other clips, and it should just pop out. Let's see, it's easier. I've got somewhere I've got a mobile phone kit which has got very, very thin sheets of steel. Trying to keep it in camera, and you can pop those down the sides here, and one pop out. There you go, it's gone. And it releases, like each one that you put the steel in, it'll release that clip, so you can separate it all without any major hassle. Right, we know how it works. Yep, that one's burnt a little bit, look. See how it's discoloured? I don't know if you can see that. Yep. And you can see the contact underneath is black. So this is why the window's not working properly. So again, I'll put that in there just to hold on to it. I'll clean this up with a bit of the wet and dry. I'll still use the same piece because it's clean enough. Just make sure I get it on camera. I'm just cleaning these up a little bit. Looks like this one's got hot due to how badly the connection's going. I just use that. There's no mini screwdriver gone. I just use this just to scrape the inside a little bit. And again, press them down, pull them. Give them a little jiggle. Yes, it folds. This contact isn't actually too bad. It's relatively shiny. Contact on the other one is the worst one of all of them so far. As I say, it's a little bit of work, but it's better doing a little bit of work than it is paying out a fortune for a new switch. I mean, if you can get a hold of a second-hand one, great, do it. But it's highly probable this has happened to a second-hand one. These switches are in a stupid little place for liquid getting onto them. Just going to lift this one up a little bit and try and clean that bottom contact a bit more. Trying to keep it as flat as I can so that I don't create a curvature on it, because it's not curved on the other side. Yeah, that's clean. Nearly dropped it. That side's nearly clean. Yeah, that side's shiny. Just want to check that this is still springy. Yes, it is. That one's popped up. See what's happened? Spring has dropped off. So just need to grab that spring, put it into the little groove so that it springs again. There's a little groove there for it. Slid off to the side. This does occasionally happen. If it does, don't worry about it too much, as long as it's sitting where it should be when it goes back together. Right. It's going to be a bit harder to get back together. I can see what's happened. When it's sprung out, it has bent that bit there. So, straighten out the spring again. It's bent that bit just there. So I'm just straightening it out again with flat nose pliers. You could use tweezers. Put it back onto the back. There's a little hook there on the back. Make sure it's in there. Use the tweezers just to pull the spring back. Get the spring into its little groove, which is there. And it's back to working. Make sure they've got a good contact, which they have. Make sure that top's nice and clean. Cotton bud again. In the liquid. Give this a clean. Shouldn't matter about that heat on that copper. It's not going to affect the contact. As long as this contact and that contact are clean, the copper will still conduct electricity, even if it's like gone a funny colour. It's more making sure the contacts are clean, which they are. Load more liquid on that one. Now, I might be able to make a part 3 or part 4 for this. It's going to be a long video anyway, because we're doing everything in normal time. I haven't edited it. That spring's come out of its clip again. There you go. Tweezers. Just pull the spring down a little bit and get it into its groove. Make sure it bounces. Put that down. Just quickly give this a quick clean. And I'll actually just stick this in now and see if I can clean it up. Oh, I need to use tweezers. Just using some tweezers instead, just to give that a quick rub down, because these contacts are actually quite clean on this side. Yeah, that's fine. It's a relatively clean one. Apologies if I keep on going off centre. I am trying my best. It's a bit hard to see while I'm looking directly at the switch itself. Let's make sure these ones are clean. So I've just had it down on the surface and then clip it back together. There you go. Right, now the cleaning process of the pins. So snip this. Come here. I've got a lot here. I'll go on the floor for now. This actually has quite a bit of solder left on it, so I'll just quickly heat up the soldering blade, clean any solder off that. Really, I need 2 clips on it. Come on, get one from that side, one from that side. Let's move the camera a little bit. Put a little bit of fresh solder on there. You can see the lead-free solder because it's very dull, lead-free solder, compared to lead solder. It's the zinc in it. It's doesn't quite set as cleanly as leaded solder. So I'll start camera here. So just put that on there, give it a quick clean. Try not to heat these up too much because I don't want the contacts to get too hot inside. But obviously I need the contacts to be clean so I can straighten them. If you don't clean the contacts, clean the solder off, it makes for a horrible contact. Straighten the pins out. So I have got these flat ones, these flat bits, because it's a little bit easier. You can just use tweezers or a pair of normal pliers. I just like these because they're really flat. It makes for easy insertion. And then we'll just use the screwdriver and again push these contacts down. Try not to stab yourself. As this was the way it was poured out in the factory, we'll do it. Doing all four, as I say, just because it's simple. Take it back down to a level where we can see it and grab it with the other two. That should be strong enough. Clean the contact on this, clean my soldering iron tip. I'll move my isopropyl on a little bit. Quick dab of solder. You can see how fast it takes because the contacts have been cleaned. It just sucks it straight in. And I'm using this shorter tip, so I've got heat going directly to the pins. Far better. And you end up with a nice shiny clean contact. Just pick up that little solder ball off the end there. Come on, there it is. If you remove the heat quickly, you end up with a better solder joint. Don't let it cool down slowly. And you don't want it to get too hot because that'll create a bad solder joint as well. You want the flux to basically drop balls everywhere here. What happens as you get older, you drop solder balls everywhere. I suck them up with a soldering iron. Get them hot again. It's flowing right through the hole there. Little ball there. The trouble with solder balls is they short things out, so you don't want shorts on a circuit board. Again, a bit of isopropanol, just clean any of the flux off. You don't need to, it doesn't really matter, but if you've got a clean board, you can see if there's any little bad joints or bits on it that shouldn't be. I've just picked 2 solder balls off there, which I didn't see with the naked eye. No sharp points on the solder, so it's not grabbing hold of the ends, falling off again. It's not grabbing a hold of the cotton and grabbing it. It shows that it's got a good solder joint. Nice and shiny. Give the contacts a quick clean while I'm here. They are grabbing onto this, but that's because they're sharp cut. And then we'll move on to the switch for on and off for these. Which, if you saw my previous video, is a switch that turns on and off the earth grain, which is that one there and that one there. That's positive, that's the switch. And this gets reversed by them. Right, so taking this switch apart is going to be a lot more complicated, not more pain in the arse. It's got 4 contacts there. It's got a plastic clip there, 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 and there, and there, and there. So that's 6 altogether on there. And it's also got 1 spring, which I can see through that hole there, which is a little metal spring. So I'm completely off camera, I'm apologising. So it's got 1 plastic clip there, there, 1 plastic clip there and there, 1 plastic clip there and there. By the looks of it, it's got a little metal spring in here. I have a feeling that's going to fly, and this looks like the greasing hole. So that's where they grease it from. When I release this, I have a feeling there's going to be a spring or a lever that goes around in a little quadrant there inside, and that is going to pop out, and I don't know how easy it's going to be to get back together this, to be honest with you. So we're going to try and lever this half away from the other half. Which is sort of working there. Again, it's always a fiddly job getting these things back together. That's sort of popped up, so we'll go to this side, and that's off. See how it's lifted in the corner there? So, as with everything, gently take it apart. There's the little spring. This is just a flat contact. Focus. So that's just a flat contact. That just slides backwards and forwards on the spring. It looks like they're ball bearing type contacts, and all the clicking mechanism is in that side, which is a good thing. It means you can take this contact off, clean it, and it should work absolutely fine. So we'll lay this out of the way. Apologies, just knocked the camera. So yes, contacts on this should be easy enough to clean up. I'm going to get a little bit of wet and dry again, which I seem to have lost that little bit I had before. I've got that little tiny bit, but I want a bit bigger. So, tear a little bit off. I normally keep a little strip of this in my electronics box. This has got grease on it, which it shouldn't really have too much of. But I might go and get a little bit of non-conductive grease. Again, just gentle rub down, get a smooth surface. This has obviously got copper on top. This is just a normal open, normal closed contact, so when it's at the top it connects, when it's at the bottom it doesn't. So it'll rest on there and I slide up to there. So I'm exposing the copper on this because it is just copper, it isn't sort of coated in silver like the other contacts. Could explain why it's struggling to get through 10 amps, mind. Just how much the windows take to go up and down on their initial contact. So that's nice and shiny now. Again, cotton bud, I'll just use an old cotton bud for now. Give it a clean. You can see how much more shiny that is now. Give it a little bit more of a sand, I think. You don't want to take too much off because you'll end up with no copper left. Get a fresh cotton bud. Give it another wipe. I'm going to give this a little blaster contact cleaner or brake cleaner, just to make sure I get rid of all of that. It evaporates quite quickly, this. Hopefully you can see that that is much more shiny than it was. Still a little bit rough where the contacts are, so I'm just going to give it a little bit more. I'm rubbing it this way because the contact goes up and down like that, so it means that it's got lots of little ridges this way. So as this contact slides up and down, it should grip onto those and give it a little bit better contact or chance of contact. If I use 2000 grit on this, it should basically be a mirror finish by the time it's finished. A little bit of a diagonal on it, just to see if I can't get a few little ridges on there. That should do it. Yeah, that'll do it. Right. Do the same on the switch as I did before. I don't want to pull this apart if I can help it. So just fold this in half, make it a bit more stiff. And rub the top of those contacts. Pretty sure they should be on a spring. Yes, they are. So they're on a spring. Try not to make this spring out. Yep, they're shiny. So we'll clip this, get that off, clip this, get. Determined to run away today. Get this back on there. Make sure that is touching the spring. Yes, it is. Clip that side back in. I can feel how much pressure's on that little spring, so that's all clipped back together. Again, clean these contacts here. So I'll nick a jaw off there. Grab that. Get two of them on it. That way I know it's not going to move. Isopropanol, a bit of solder, it's clean, solder, there you go, straight onto the pin, bit of solder onto that pin, you see there's flux in the solder, clean it off again, nicely tinned. mean that the solder sticks straight to the pads, which I've already tinned as well. A quick clean of these and straighten them out, because they did get a little bit bent when I was taking it out. That one there, that one there. Straighten it out that way. Make sure they're nice and straight. I flip the board around so you can see it. Now this has got plastic clips on, so put a little bit too much solder in the holes. Excellent. So grab that, grab that. Grab it in a couple of places. There we go. Lift this corner up. That's got a good grip. That's got a good grip. Nice and solid. I'll quickly snip off that. Snips. One bit of desoldering. Just quickly suck any solder up now. I've got excess there because it's not fitting through the hole. As I said, this has got a big heat draw on it. It's basically a massive big sheet of copper. All of this is connected to this one, and the other side, all of it is connected by the other heat shield. So it's very unusual how both of those seem to have quite a lot of muck inside them. It's got a little plastic clip on it, just there and two there, which holds it in. I'm feeling that these are a little bit too far out. Let's see. Just twist it that way and that way. Excuse the bang. Yeah, they're going to struggle to come through that hole, aren't they? Let's do this a little bit off screen for a second. Just make sure and see where it's lined up. Yeah, there's a bit too much solder on this side, that's what it is. Just quickly desolder this. That's stuck to it. Heat's been sucked out of it. Temperature of the soldering iron's dropped to 350. A bit more solder. Just fill the hole in temporarily. Same with those. And then suck it back out. Solder blade. It's going to take a little bit of heat transfer. Let's have a look. Get this hot. Get a ball on it. The extra solder I'm adding will transfer a bit more of the heat to there. I'm going to have to use my heat gun as well. Just basically preheating the board. Keep the heat on, and then hopefully this will suck the solder out. Come on. Oh, solder line got hot. What a surprise. Right. Let's try this again. That's better. That's nice and clean. Sometimes you have to get it really hot to get it clean. That one's nice and clean. I'm going to suck it out of that one as well while the board's hot. There we go. Now we should be able to drop this switch back in. Get it from the clamps. That's all the way flat and flush. So I'll solder it from the other side. Oh yeah, there you go. The thing I like about these magnetic ones is you can just disconnect it and pop it off and move it if it's just in the wrong place. So your helping hands are always in the right place. So much better. Right. Let's do these first because these are still warm. It's going to take a load of solder to fill that big hole. And I want it to go all the way through to the other side. I want it to be showing out the other side when I finished. And that way I know I've got a good connection. Because this one doesn't actually connect to this side, so we need to check that it doesn't. Right, do that via. That should be full. We'll check that on the other side. We don't want to melt the plastic if we can help it. Just touched it there. It's because I've got the shakes, which again I told you I had since 2018. Thank you very much. You know who you are and why. Right, this is the earth side, and the other side is the window lock side. So this side only should connect to this side. Check the board, make sure it's gone all the way through, which I can see on there it has. It's gone through, it's nicely connected to both sides. So I'm just going to grip it in that a little bit, give it a quick wipe down with a stick because I've got a bit of muck on it. Clean any flux residue off. Same on this side where I've been soldering those. Flip it over. Get the last of this lot off. squeaky clean. A little bit of residue on these spheres that I put some on earlier, flux, which I don't really want. A little bit there. Right. Just going to clean that one up there. Clean that one up there. They just need a little touch up now. I'll do all of them. I think you can see that. Just got a bit too much solder on them and didn't like the look of them. I'll just quickly redo them so they're all a bit more even. In case you're wondering, these slidey switches are just held on with these 4 clips. There's just a spring underneath them. These are just in a guide, and underneath there's 2 little springs, and they just slide backwards and forwards. So you can actually take these off by popping these out, but I'm leaving them on just because you don't need to. They're working. So now the testing process. I want to test that this is working as it should. So you've already seen in the previous video how it works. I've lost my multimeter. So that one there and that one there should be shorted. Some of them shouldn't. That one there should be short to there, and also to that one there. I hadn't quite gone through, there's a little bit of residue on this. So yeah, that should be shorted and that should be shorted. So they're all on earth. That's the earth, that's the window down, that's the window up, that's the window up, that one's the window down. So when I tested it, the car, what I did is I took that, I shorted that out with my meter to that one on amps, 20 amp, and then what I did is I took an earth from there and shorted it out to there, and the window went down or up. And then I did the opposite, I did this to there, and then I shorted out from there to there, and the window went up. That was on the wiring loom in the door. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to have my little screwdriver so I can click these, and I'm going to test between the live 12 volt and up, and the live 12 volt and down. Make sure that they end up, yes they do. Bad connection because of my stupid probe moving. Come on, start. Somewhere I've got a set of probes that do this automatically. They're like, so yes, we're getting a good connection there, and we're getting a good connection there. And those shorted, open, shorted, open. So up and down for this side. Again, I'll test it. make sure they're shorted, open, shorted, open, and test that one and test that one. Yep, no resistance whatsoever, and complete open circuit when needed. So yeah, that's spot on, exactly how it should be. And to test the switch, it's simple. You've got a short there. As soon as you press it, disconnects it on all four. So I need to clean this up a little bit. That's got a little bit of flux on it still, which is causing me issues when I'm testing. So I'll just clean that up a little bit more. I don't want flux on there. It doesn't do anything to the board really. You have flux on things for years. It does corrode if you have a harsh flux, tree resin based flux, it can rot copper. So although they say flux doesn't damage the board, it doesn't damage the solder, it does actually damage the copper. It'll turn the copper green and make it all furry. So you really want to get as much off as possible. You don't want flux on the actual copper when it's finished soldering. If you don't believe me, in my flux, which is pretty manky, there's all this discoloration, and that is from where I have dunked in a cocktail stick, because occasionally I need to solder very, very small copper bits, and the cocktail stick has turned black, and all the copper that's been in there turns green. That's a bit of heat shrink. Don't know what that's doing in there. Occasionally things fall in my flux. It's years old, so I always keep a bit of a cocktail stick in there, and I just leave it in there. It's there for when I need it. When I need to stick it in, stick a bit of flux in a little hole. So, but yes, this flux will corrode metal quite quickly. If you put a T-junction off a plumbing pipe in there, it'll be green within 4 hours, which is not what you want on your circuit board. Right, again, sliders, make sure they're in the centre. I've popped the casing back together. Isn't that stupid of me? Drop that on the floor. Make sure your sliders are lined up with the tall ones. Pop this in. Nothing's catching, nothing's catching. Click, click. Click, 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 click. That's because the screws aren't in, that's why it was not clicking. Pop the back on. I'll give this quick. Apologies for that. I'll give this a quick clean down, just because it's got muck on it. Actually, you know what it is? I'm just going to blast it with a bit of as I say, this stuff evaporates fairly easily, so just give the plastics a quick blast with it and give them a wipe. is my yellow cloth, which is over here, a bit manky. Apologies, it's off camera. Just wiping it down with a lint-free microfiber cloth, just to get any bits off that I've missed. It's just, anybody can wipe a piece of plastic down. Just cleans it up, gets rid of any grease from people's fingers or whatever. Right, let the rest of that evaporate so it looks a bit cleaner. It's got a little bit of dust on it in the middle. Clean off of that. Need to put this back in here, but this is dirty as well, so I'm going to give this a quick wipe down, and then that's it. I might be able to record tomorrow what happens, because the car's actually parked in the corner of a forecourt out of the way, so I should in theory be able to record me putting it in and testing it in situ.